Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris, and on today's video we're going to talk about fragrances to avoid in the summertime to not get attacked by insects. So on today's video we have an interesting topic. I actually scavenged the internet to do this topic to see what fragrances, tend to attract bugs. If you love fragrances just as much as I do, you probably have been followed by a bumblebee or a wasp, sometimes flies, or you get bit by mosquitoes. And if you are a person that tends to attract them individually without wearing any fragrances, then these are definitely fragrances that you should probably avoid. I actually stuck to two brands, Chanel and Dior. We can do other brands if you guys like this topic. I can scavenge the other brands for notes to see which other fragrances may also cause this effect. So let's get into it to see what fragrances you should avoid. So fragrances that contain a floral composition or a fruity composition and even a sweeter composition tend to attract flying insects. So that can be butterflies, that can be bumblebees, which I don't really mind either one of those, but you also get mosquitoes, you also get flies, you get other giant insects like fireflies sometimes if you are in a region that obviously has them. But I know some people are deadly afraid of insects. I'm not one that's necessarily, am I necessarily? I'm not necessarily one that's deathly afraid of insects. Now, spiders is a whole different story. By the way, there has been this big trend on TikTok that I think it's Sol de Janeiro fragrances, which I don't really consider them fragrances, they're really body sprays in my opinion, tend to attract spiders. There's actually no scientific evidence behind that. Spiders don't actually go by scent, they actually go by prey and vibrations, and they see things move, and that's how they capture their prey. They don't go by smelling things necessarily. So there's actually no fragrance out there that necessarily will attract spiders, but that could be changing obviously because science constantly changes and it obviously evolves with time and we learn new things. But as of now, science does say that they do not follow scent. So I have a list here of actual notes that you should probably avoid if you are wanting to not get harassed by mosquitoes or by flies or by bees or by wasps even. These are notes that you should probably not pick out in a fragrance. Now, quick disclaimer, there are going to be fragrances that may have one of these notes or two of these notes, and that's totally okay. You can still wear the fragrance, you can still, enjoy the fragrance and maybe not get attacked by mosquitoes or by any flying insects. The thing about it is whenever your fragrance has more than one of these notes, that's where it starts to get into attracting insect territory. Why is that? Because perfumes are so complex and they have so many different molecules and chemicals inside of them to really make them smell the way that they are meant to smell. They are going to have, very different amounts of actual essences inside of it. So even though it might say it has, for example, rose, it might have a very minute amount of rose for the fragrance to embody its actual characteristics. That is going to change, like I said, from fragrance to fragrance. But if you have a fragrance that has more than two of these notes, that is where you should probably do a double take, especially if you're an outdoorsy person. Some of these are going to be fine. Some of these are going to be even summer fragrances that I have suggested to you guys before. And the thing about these fragrances is you can wear them in the summertime. What I'm saying in this video is they are not really meant for outdoorsy purposes, and you'll probably see a trend here. They're typically a little bit more heavier, sweeter scents that you would love, that are typically popular. Let's give you the notes to see if your fragrance has these. So notes that are known to attract insects, especially insects that tend to pollinate, are going to be lavender, rose, jasmine, orange blossom, lilac, honeysuckle, ylang ylang geranium, peonies, orange, lemon, bergamot, apple, peach, mango, and strawberry, and finishing off with tonka bean and vanilla. So you're probably like, why is tonka bean on this list and why is vanilla on this list? That is because these scents are typically sweeter scents and they actually mimic a ripe fruit. And obviously insects like to gravitate towards, nature or ripe fruits, or they like to pollinate. And because of that, these two scents do tend to attract insects. Now there is one in particular here, or actually two, that tend to attract quite a bit of insects, and that is going to be rose and peonies. Peonies in nature attract almost every insect, whether it be flies, whether it be bumblebees, whether it be wasps, whether it be ants. It attracts all of these actual different types of insects. And because of that, it's also going to do the same thing in perfumery. So if you are looking at a fragrance that has peonies in it, I would definitely smell it to see if it's a heavy note in the actual fragrance itself. I would avoid wearing it when it comes to outdoorsy purposes. And the first fragrance we have on our list here today is Miss Dior Blooming Bouquet. So Miss Dior Blooming Bouquet has two different notes that will attract insects if you are outside, and that is going to be peonies, which is the main note in this fragrance. It's also going to have damask rose. I wouldn't worry so much about the damask rose, although it is considered to be something that attracts insects. Peonies is definitely the one that is the star of the show in this fragrance. By the way, I just noticed that they reformulated Miss Dior. They got rid of mandarin and changed that to sweet pea. So let me know if you want me to do a review on those two or a comparison between the old formulation and the new formulation. But because of the peonies in this fragrance, I would definitely avoid it. It is a very beautiful, light, musky scent with peony touches, and it has some woody elements in it. Very, very nice scent for the actual summertime. But because of the peony inside of it, I would definitely avoid wearing it whenever it comes to going outside or doing outdoorsy type of things. The next one we have on the list is going to be Miss Dior the Eau de Parfum. This is a new formulation. They did change it quite a bit from the previous formulation. This formulation is going to have peonies as well as tonka beans. So we're getting a very sweet element in the actual fragrance with that tonka bean, and then we're getting that floral touch. So we're getting double kill here. So essentially with this fragrance, I would certainly say to avoid wearing it outside. It's definitely a lighter scent, so you can wear it in the summertime. I do think it does lend itself to a warmer climate, but because it has peonies and tonka bean, this is probably going to be a fragrance that will attract quite a bit of insects. That just depends on the area. And especially if you are prone to getting bit by mosquitoes, I would avoid this fragrance because you are definitely going to attract them. Now, the next one I have on the list that has two or more of these notes that are going to be, attracting insects is J'adore the Eau de Parfum. In my experience, I have not had anything follow me whenever I have either smelt it on someone or I have worn it outside. J'adore the Parfum is fairly light, even though it's a floral. It's very light to the point where you can't tell what's in it, but it does have ylang ylang and it does have Damascus rose inside of it, which may attract insects. So just keep that into consideration. I would definitely try it first and then go outside before actually, going and committing to a full day in the wilderness with this fragrance. Now, I was very shocked because we're moving over to Chanel territory now. And there are two fragrances, or three actually, that I really do like. I think they're really beautiful scents, but because they have quite a bit of these notes, I would definitely say to stay away from them if you do not want to get attacked by a flying insect. The first one is Chanel Chance Eau Vive, and this fragrance is going to have blood orange and grapefruit. Now, these are definitely not actual notes that are considered to be super attracting to insects, but because of the high amounts of grapefruit and the high amounts of blood orange in this fragrance, you'll definitely start to attract insects. I'm not going to say that it's probably going to be like flies or mosquitoes, but it might be bumblebees. And if you're afraid of bumblebees, then I would certainly say to not wear this fragrance because it does carry quite a bit of those citric elements. The next one that I was very shocked by is Coco Mademoiselle by Chanel, and this is the Eau de Parfum edition. So this one, for a couple of reasons, I would stay away from if you're going to be outside. First and foremost, it's a little bit of a heavy scent. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful fragrances out there, but it does have quite a bit of actual notes that are going to attract insects. The first one being ylang ylang, followed by rose. Then we're going to get vanilla and tonka bean, another two sweet notes that are going to attract quite a bit of insects. Then we have orange blossom as well as orange and mandarin orange. So a lot more notes that are going to attract insects. And then we're also going to finish off with bergamot, which is another element that does tend to attract insects. Now, this fragrance can be a little sweet-ish. It is very beautiful. This fragrance is earthy and sweet, but because of the sweet elements and the floral elements, as well as the citric elements and fruity elements in this fragrance, it may attract quite a bit of actual insects. And it's also kind of heavy wearing, so because of that, and it does have some longevity and some performance to it, it may leave a trail. In this case, if you're going to be outside, you probably don't want a fragrance that's going to leave a trail or sillage behind you because it may aggravate the actual attraction of insects towards you. And the last Chanel fragrance I have on this list is going to be Coco Noir. And I was very shocked because I really like Coco Noir. Now, I don't know if you would actually even wear Coco Noir in the summertime. Let me know down in the comments if you do. It's pretty heavy for a fragrance. It's beautiful. It's probably my favorite one out of the entire Coco range because it's just so complex and so beautiful and so artistic. But the fragrance itself has quite a bit of actual notes that are going to attract insects. The first one being orange, followed by grapefruit. Then we get bergamot and geranium, followed by jasmine and rose. And finally, we get vanilla as well as tonka bean. So this one has a lot of these elements that are going to attract insects, and it is heavier. It is very heavy on vanilla as well, so it's going to be a little bit more sweet. And because of that, it will attract quite a bit of insects. I do love this fragrance. You can still wear it, in my opinion, but I would certainly wear it inside and not out. Now, something I did want to touch on are some of these fragrance brands such as Dior or Chanel. Well, not Chanel so much, but Dior has done this for quite some time now, is where they focus on these notes with their La Collection Privée. So for example, here we have Rose Kabuki. I would avoid fragrances that are going to really focus on one note. So for example, this one focuses on rose because it does have quite a bit of rose essence inside of it, and that may attract bees or that may attract pollinating insects. And because of that, I would certainly say to stay away from fragrances that are overly simplistic and that carry a lot of one single note. I know I said that, you should not avoid a fragrance if it only has one, but in cases like these where there's a lot of that note, then that is where you probably want to avoid it to not get bit up or eaten up or followed down the road by a mosquito. So if you're going camping and you're taking your bottle of Coco Mademoiselle with you, then definitely you are asking to get bitten up by mosquitoes and insects. Now, just take into consideration that any fragrance may attract different types of insects. I did focus only on the ones that fly in this actual video, but there's different fragrances that attract different things. So just bear that in mind and let me know down in the comments what fragrance you have worn that actually has attracted insects. The reason I did this video is because I wore recently, I believe it might have been this one, Rose Kabuki or Gypsy Rose or Rose Gypsy, whatever it's called. And I was being followed by a bumblebee because the bumblebee must have thought I was a big rose bush. Mind you, I was wearing, I think, a very bright pink too, so also color does take a factor into if they're going to follow you or not. If you're going to wear a very colorful, vibrant color and you're wearing a perfume, they will follow you because they think you are a flower and they want to pollinate you. So just bear that in mind for your use of fragrances in the summertime. Let me know which one of these fragrances you have worn and gotten followed by insects. Let me know which one of these fragrances you want and which one is your favorite in this list. Do you like any of them? Also, let me know down in the comments if you would like another video for another brand on fragrances to avoid from their line to not get bitten up by mosquitoes or by insects. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more fragrance related content. Until next time, take care.